Hey beautiful people, what is up and welcome back to my channel and welcome to one of my absolute favorite videos to film, and this is ranking the last 8 eyeshadow palettes that I've tried. Typically I do 10, but honestly I just want to do these 8 and just go with it. I'm not going to hold myself to 10 going forward because that's a lot. But I have been filming for like the last 3 or 4 hours. I have ordered food, it's on the way, so I'm trying to get this video out before my delivery arrives. But yes, I'm going to be ranking the last 8 videos that 8 eyeshadow palettes that I've tried. If this is your first time watching me, hi, welcome. I'm Jamila. I love all things beauty. I love all things makeup. I love all things skincare, and I especially love sharing my tips and tricks for how to find high-end and luxury beauty products at bargain prices. If that sounds like something you're interested in, I would absolutely love if you would consider subscribing and joining the fam. Okay, so if I do have a video using any of these palettes, I will link it down below. I will also have links to purchase these palettes down below. Some of them will be affiliate links, so if you shop through them, I will make a small commission. Just wanted to put that out there. But without further ado, let's dive into the video. Y'all about to be real surprised with the order of these palettes, but this is how the cookie crumbled. So coming in at number 8 is going to be the Natasha Denona Blue Purple 28 pan palette. No, I wanted to like this. I wanted to love this because everybody and their mother has said this is the formula from Natasha Denona to try. So this is her 28 pan eyeshadow palette. This typically retails for over $200, and I was able to pick this up 2 years ago now during the Black Friday sale. So I bought this in conjunction with the other 28 pan palette, which I think is green brown. I don't know, y'all. I just thought it was okay. I think it's a nice formula. It's Natasha Denona's good quality. I don't think that this is anything exceptional in terms of like this is so much better than everything else she has on the market. I thought it was nice, and I thought that it was just that nice. I don't think that I felt like any sort of special tingle using this. I also realized that this is hella dark. Like there are no real light shades, and the matte to shimmer ratio is very off in my opinion. So like you have these 3 mattes here, and then you have these blue mattes, but you don't have a transition shade, even for me, and I'm like on the deeper end of things. So I was like, what are people using as a transition shade in this palette? And in my mind, when I have a 28 pan eyeshadow palette, which is already too big, in my opinion, shouldn't it at least come with some transition shades? Or am I bugging? Like, am I missing something? And the reality is that while this is a nice palette, there are a number of shades that are really close to each other in terms of being very similar. So it was kind of like, did we need all of these super duper similar shades? Like, was it really necessary? So while I used it and I have no issues with the quality, I thought everything applied well, it blended well, it was Natasha's good formula. At the end of the day, I didn't feel overly inspired. Looking at it, I felt a little overwhelmed because it was so big, and then I felt like there was a lot of repetition in terms of the shades. And lastly, in addition to it being so big, there still weren't any transition shades that made sense. So I was just like, I can't believe I waited so long to try it only to be disappointed. I think that irritates me more than anything else. Coming in at number 7 is a palette that I actually like, but I do think that there are some fundamental issues with it that makes it rank lower. It's not bad by any means, it's just that there are some little things that I would have liked differently, and that is the Nomad Cosmetics Verona palette. Now, I love this. I do really enjoy this. The looks that I created with this, amazeballs, if I say so myself. I really like how they turned out. Now, there are a couple of fundamental issues with this palette that I'm just like, this is why it's falling lower than the others. First, I talked about the packaging in my last video. It is a dual-sided palette, so instead of opening up like a flap, it opens up like this, which just makes it a little bit harder to use. Secondly, in terms of the color story, I love this half of the palette. This is the sort of death side of the palette. I think that this is perfection. I think that this is a perfect 9-pan palette. This side of the palette, however, leaves a lot to be desired. And I think part of it is preference in terms of the pinky reddish shades. I don't feel like I need that much of it. I don't need such a monochromatic 9-pan palette. And with there being some similarities in like 2 of the pinks, I felt like it was a little bit redundant in terms of some of these shades are super similar that I didn't need any of it. Also, The shimmers here are just extremely hard pressed. I'm used to Nomad having hard press shimmers where you have to go in with your fingers, but these just felt harder than normal. I felt like I was putting in some elbow grease and some work to get them shimmers out. And if you were going in with the brush, like, forget it. In my opinion, it was really hard to pick up the shimmers in this palette because they are so hard pressed. And the reason why, you know, in thinking about it, even though I love how my looks came out, I'm putting it at number 7 because at the end of the day, if I look at it from like a quantity perspective, half of the palette does not work for me in the way that I want it to work for me. So because I really am only in love with this half of the palette and in like with this half of the palette, I'm ranking it a little bit lower because it just, it didn't inspire me as much as I had hoped, because after I used this to create my looks, you know, I didn't feel the same level of excitement that I typically get when it comes to Nomad palettes, where I want to keep using it and I have to tell myself, okay, put it down, find another palette to use. Like, I was like, okay, that was fun, on to the next, which, you know, like with the Whistler palette, I was like, oh, let's keep going. And after like 4 or 5 looks, I was like, okay, you need to try other palettes. This one did not give me that same thing, but I do love it. I think it's top-notch quality, and the mattes are superb. You know, I have a thing for mattes, and mattes can make or break a palette for me. So I will say that I really enjoyed the mattes in that Amazeballs. But yeah, and I am going to be doing a video on some of the best matte eyeshadows out there, because I know I talk about mattes a lot, and I, you know, talk especially about bad mattes a lot, but I do want to do like a more positive side of it and let you guys know which are the matte formulas that I think are the most pigmented, the easiest to blend, and the most beginner friendly, so that you get a sense of sort of my matte preferences. Because I also 100% understand that when it comes to matte eyeshadows, the way in which I feel about certain mattes are not the way in which everybody else feels, because there are some brands and some formulas where I'm just like, can't do it, and other people are like, yeah, I have no issues with it, it's fine. So I just want to give you guys a little bit more context in terms of the types of mattes that I have, so if you have a makeup preference that's similar to mine, you can better understand why I like or don't like certain mattes. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, so let's keep going with the ranking. So coming in at number 6 is going to be the Pat McGrath Celestial Nirvana palette. I love Patricia, but what was this? What was this? Is it just me, or was something really off with this palette? So first and foremost, Pat McGrath gave us color, and I think all of us was like, okay, she's listening. She heard the feedback. Y'all said y'all wanted color. The woman gave us color, okay? And when I saw it, I was like very excited about it when I saw the reveal. And then when I got it, I was like, oh, okay. And this was one of those palettes where the initial excitement really started fizzling out after time. And it took me a very long time to get this palette. I picked it up on sale, you know, all that fun jazz. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but the quality of this palette does not feel like typical Pat McGrath quality. So let me know in the comments if it's just me, because in my opinion, this did not feel like the same Pat McGrath quality. But it does say that this was made in Italy, so I'm guessing it was made by Halaz. Anyways, but I feel like it just didn't feel the same, and I don't know if it's just because I was kind of over it, that it had like a meh experience for me. I think also the color story felt a little chaotic in my mind. It was hard for me to be like, okay, this is what I want to pull together. The way I was able to make this work is by actually looking at it as 3 separate 6-pans. So these 2 rows here, 1 6-pan, these 2 rows here, another 6-pan, and then these 2 rows on this side are another 6-pan. And that is how I was able to create looks with it. And I actually did 3 looks using each sort of 6-pan separately, and I really like how they came out. I really liked looking at it in that perspective, which kind of made me wonder, like, wouldn't it have just made more sense to give us 3 6-pans? I don't know. I don't know if it's also just because these bigger palettes tend to like overwhelm me, because the color stories tend to be so all over the place and not as cohesive. Like with the, like, and I talk about this brand a lot, so I get it. But With Blend Bunny, when they arrange their eyeshadow palettes, it's a gradient, and it's very like, this is this row, this is this row, this is this row. Because this felt like a little bit all over the place, in my opinion, I feel like I struggled a bit with this. I feel like we asked Patricia for color, she gave us color, but now that she's given us color, I feel like, honestly, Pat, I just keep doing what she was doing. I think you were onto something, and we were wrong. I think it's okay to say we were wrong. You know, it's nice, yes. Am I going to keep using it? Yes. Is the quality bad? No. I don't think that it's bad quality by any means. It just didn't feel like the same Pat McGrath quality. It just felt different, but not in a like, oh, this is bad quality way. So that was when I kind of was like, oh, I don't get the same experience. And something about using a Pat McGrath shadow in terms of experience, that is what I like hold on to a lot, because with her shadows, I feel differently when I use them, and I noticed that the feeling wasn't the same. And I know this probably does not make any sense, but if you know, if you use makeup, I feel like you know what I'm saying. So I hope you guys know what I'm saying. Let me know if you've picked up that palette, if you've tried it, you know, what you feel about it, because I'm hella curious. Okay, coming in at number 5 is going to be this Itty Bitty Baby palette. This is the Shell We Liana palette. I don't really know this brand. This is the only thing that I've ever purchased from them, but I remember seeing they launched this palette and they had swatches of it, and it was just so beautiful. So it's just the quad, but it is arranged in, you know, this way, and I think it's just such a cute little palette. Now it does have this very sort of fiery shade that I thought was going to be a dupe for the red shade in the Sigil inspired Black Love palette, but it's not. And one thing I noticed about this is that the shades in here are a lot smoother and a lot less wet and reflective than I expected it to be. Not in like a bad way, but it was just like less than I expected. Now, that being said, these are really nice shadows. I really like this multi-chrome. The green is supposed to be a multi-chrome as well, but it doesn't really have a shift. And then the silver is kind of like a topper shade. I don't really wear silver that much, so not really using it. What I did enjoy was the matte as well. I thought that it blended really well. It had great pigment. But again, this is just one matte shade, and it's definitely not the deepest shade. So it wasn't necessarily a matte that I could apply and then blend out to make it a transition shade and then use as a you know, deepening shade as well. So it is a bit of an incomplete palette for me, but most quads are, unless you have multiple mattes, and then, you know, but it was a little bit of an incomplete palette, and I feel like I expected it to be a little bit more high shine and more impactful because of the swatches and the pictures that I saw. Not that it isn't impactful, it's just less than what I expected. But overall, nice. I would still buy it. I picked this quad, actually retails for $27, which I'm trying to think objectively, and I do think that that is a fair price, and probably even cheaper than what else is on the market, because it does include a multi-chrome. So $27 for 4 shades, and this is the full-size version. They do have a mini version if you don't want full-size pans for $15, which I think is also an even better price. So in terms of like cost, I do think that that is a really solid buy. Coming in at number 4 has to go to this Desert Lights 6-pan from Flower Beauty. Y'all, when I tell you this is so good, this is so good. Now, it's an all shimmer palette, so you have to reach into another palette for mattes. But the shimmers in here, these shimmers are so good. And this is a drugstore palette, y'all. Now, is it drugstore price? Maybe not, because it's $20, but $20 for pans that are honestly too big for anybody. Like, I wouldn't buy pans that are this large generally, but it was $20. I think it was an affordable price. I also was able to use a coupon to get it cheaper, so I did not pay $20 for it. And because it is like drugstore, at Ulta you could get this for much cheaper. And I've since heard that Flower Beauty is going to be rebanding, repackaging some things. So these have actually been showing up at TJ Maxx and Marshalls, and I think they're on sale for like $7 or $9. So if you find this at a TJ Maxx or Marshalls, honestly, pick this baby up, because this, in my opinion, performed better than some of the high-end and luxury neutral palettes that I have. This had such amazing shine and pigment, and it was just so beautiful on the eyes that I was just blown away. Like, I would pick this up over my Makeup by Mario palette, which was $68. Like, there's so many neutral palettes that I've tried recently, and half of them don't come close to this in terms of like the shimmer formula. So the drugstore really killed it with this one. And honestly, this is just like a reminder for me that just because something is high-end, just because it says luxury or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean that it's better than the things that are in the drugstore. You know, part of the luxury shopping experience is the experience in terms of the packaging and all the other stuff. But is it worth it to get pretty packaging when the shadows don't perform well? I mean, that's a question you have to answer for yourself. But it's nice to know that, you know, you could get shadows that perform at the level of like a Pat McGrath and a Natasha Denona for significantly less. And quite frankly, I actually like the clear packaging that this has because I appreciate being able to see my palettes and see my products. Like, now that I have such a large collection, it's really annoying when you don't know what something is because it's all in the same packaging. For example, them Tom Ford quads, they all have the same packaging. You could never tell which quad it is until you like flip it over and do all the other stuff. Same with like even Pat McGrath motherships. Unless you keep them in the box and then you have to take it out of the box, you can't tell what it is. So I like the clear sort of packaging of this. I'm looking forward to seeing what the rebranding looks like because, you know, maybe it'll be a more elevated packaging story, but I hope it doesn't affect the price because I do think that I like the price of Flower Beauty products. And from what I can tell and looking at other reviews and people that have been trying the products more, it is a pretty high quality formula for a very reasonable price. Speaking of reasonable, the number 3 palette has to go to the Cosmic Brushes Serenity palette. First, this palette had a journey and a half to get to me. I picked this up during the last restock and I remember it said that it shipped and it arrived and like I waited a couple of days and it never got to me. I filed a claim with the post office and they were like, it was delivered, and I'm like, but I don't have it. And they kept closing the claim like, oh, we already delivered your package. I'm like, I don't have it. USPS, y'all be trying it. But I actually reached out to the brand. I showed them my claim number and the brand was like very like customer service, top notch. They responded very quickly. They shipped out another one without any issues. So really happy that I was able to do that. Now this palette is it's from a UK based brand and it retails for $20. $20 USD. And you get, how much shades is this even? Is it like 20? So it's a 20 pan eyeshadow palette. It comes with a mirror. The packaging is clearly like not the best. It's just, you know, basic cardboard. I do like the print of this because I think it's really cute. But the, you know, packaging, there's no metal or anything that I could really feel that gives this an elevated look. It's like cardboard. So this is the color story. I remember when I saw this, I thought it was beautiful. It was stunning. And then I watched a ton of creators do videos on this. Okay, sorry, I had to pause to get my lunch. I also got boba tea with, it's taro boba tea with the tapioca balls. Love boba. Oops. Oh, now I'm making a mess. So I saw a ton of creators make videos on this, and honestly, I was really impressed because when they swatched it, you could tell that it was very, very pigmented. You can tell there was just like a richness to this. Now, I do believe that this, yes, it is a pressed pigment palette, so that is where, you know, the richness of these shades come from, it being pressed pigments. I did think that the shimmers were really nice. I thought that, you know, they looked really nicely when applied to the eye. There was even this really nice iridescent shade that looks white, but is one of those kind of like white multi-chrome shades, so it has like that blue tint to it. And they were very sort of finely milled shimmers that did not emphasize texture, and I thought that it just looked beautiful on the eyes. It lasted really well, no fading or anything like that. I really enjoyed this, and I almost didn't buy this because I tried during at least 2 restocks to pick it up and it kept selling out. But I think it's worth picking up, especially for the price. You know, we're at this point now where these brands are charging an arm and a leg for certain products. So to get a 20 pan eyeshadow palette that is highly pigmented, performs well, is blendable, just good quality, is like unheard of in this market right now. So I was really happy to get a hold of this. And I just think that for the price, the quality, the blendability, the experience using it, definitely worth picking up, and this is why this is ranking so high. Coming in at number 2 is another quad. This is the Trove quad from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. It's a multi-chrome quad, and I just think that it's really beautiful. I think that when it comes to multi-chrome shadows, most of them come in a single shadow format. And this actually takes those single shadows and puts them into a quad, which means that this is actually really good for travel. Now, I don't think that you need to pick this up if you have multi-chrome singles already in these colors, because this is an expensive palette. It's $68, which is about the price of what you would pay for single multi-chromes. So unless you don't have these shades or you want these shades in a palette format, I don't think that this is necessarily worth it for someone that has a large multi-chrome collection, because you probably have all of these shades already. That being said, I did have a really great experience using these shades. I thought that they were really creamy, really pigmented. They are, I'm wearing it now. I think that it lasts really well. I think it has really nice shift and reflectivity. It's not too creamy to the point where if you have like super creasy lids or super oily lids, that I feel like this would be too emollient for you. I don't have oily lids. I don't have any issues with creasing. I don't have hooded eyes, so I can't say with any certainty that it won't be. But I do think that this does feel a little bit less emollient than some of my other multi-chromes, which you can feel that they're a little extra creamy and they might result in creasing or fading throughout the day if you have hooded lids or if you have issues with oily lids. So that's just my sort of perspective. But again, I don't have those issues, so look at creators who do and see what their thoughts are on it. But overall, I think that this is a really nice quad. I do think that it is one that I am willing to travel with because I can it's tiny, it's compact, it has really nice shades, and it's easier than trying to travel with some singles because, I don't know, do people travel with singles? Anyways. And then lastly, coming in at number 1 is the companion to the Trove palette, and that is the Lore palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. This is just, it just is. It's actually what I'm wearing on my eyes right now. I'm wearing the Lore palette paired with the Trove palette. I did film this look, so it should be up before this video goes up. And you all know, Blend Bunny has my favorite matte eyeshadow formula. There's just something about a Blend Bunny palette that makes me feel the tingle that I be telling you guys about. It's the tingle that I get when I use Pat McGrath, Motherships, and, sometimes Natasha Denona shadows and Sigil Inspire shadows, Sydney Grace shadows. There's just this feeling that I appreciate, because for me, and I know for a lot of you guys, using makeup is so much more than the final product. It's the experience. And no one wants to sit there and blend for forever and not see any results. It's just really annoying. You know what I mean? So Blend Bunny is one of those brands that gives me that experience. What I like about this palette, several things. First, the layout. I really appreciate that her palettes are laid out in a way that you can just either go down the row and you have all the shades in which you want to make a monochromatic look, or you can go across rows and columns. Sorry, you can go down the column, not the row. Or you can go across things and make things your own, right? I do think that this is, different for Blend Bunny because it's not a typical rainbow palette. It is perfectly in line with the theme, the mermaid theme. I think all of these shades make sense for that theme. And all of these are super pigmented, super blendable. Again, another pressed pigment palette, so if you have issues with pigments, just take that into account. The top row has enough depth that I can use every single one of these shades as transition shades, and I think I've used every single one so far, because I've been working with this all week. Like, I have been unable to put this palette down, both in terms of creating very colorful looks, but as well as creating neutral looks, because this row here, sort of minus the multi-chrome shade in this palette, this is actually a really nice row for creating neutral looks. This sort of pinky grayish shade is a very unique transition shade that I like. And the other thing too is that if you don't get the multi-chrome palette, which is sold out currently, you can just get this one, and there is this pearl shade which is a multi-chrome, which one explains why this is a little bit more expensive than the other palettes, and two, you get a multi-chrome in this palette, which is amazeballs for the price, because I think this is $43 or $47. So Blend Bunny is one of those palettes that I have zero issues with blending or anything like that. The mattes just work for me. It's my favorite matte formula, hands down. It is also a very matte heavy palette. So if you're somebody that likes more matte heavy looks, I think that you would like this palette as well. I've always been okay with the matte to shimmer ratio from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. A lot of times I'm like, I want it to be half and half, but I feel like oftentimes with her palettes, I'm like, yeah, that works. That's all I need. I have a top row of shimmers and then all of the mattes that I could possibly need. And I have been sort of trying to mix and match all of these shades every which way. And I haven't had any issues with anything becoming muddy. Whatever I mix together actually just looks good. So that's nice, because as somebody who's not a makeup artist, I be just making shit up as I go along. Like, I hope y'all understand that I have no formal training in this. Every look that I pull together is me just like slapping some things on my eyes. I don't plan them out before. I just like look and I'm like, well, maybe let's see how it goes. And by the grace of God, some of them turn out looking good. Some of them not so much, but some of them do. So I just be trying to put things on my eyes and see what happens. But yeah, so this comes in at number 1. I think that this is just amazing. I can't wait to rank all of my Blend Bunny palettes, because this is definitely going to be top 3. Definitely. It's such a good one. All right, so those are my thoughts on the last 8 eyeshadow palettes that I've tried. Let me know down below if you've purchased any of these, if you're interested in picking up any of these. Super curious to hear your thoughts. Like I said, if I've done a video on any of these palettes, I will link it down below. I also have affiliate codes with some of these brands, so if I do, I'll link that down below as well in case you are planning to shop. You know, I want to make sure you can save money, so use a code. It doesn't have to be mine, just use any code. And then and if you do shop through my codes and I do make a small commission, I'll put a little asterisk so you know which ones I might make a commission off of, and that always goes back into me doing this and being able to buy products that I can test out and review for you guys. I'm by no means a review channel, so if this is your first time watching me, I'm just gonna put it out there. Not a review channel, but when I can, I do like reviewing products for you guys. Now, that being said, I do want to make sure that I flag that of all of the products that I talked about, there are a couple that I received in PR. So the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Le and Trove palette, I did receive both of these in PR, as well as the Nomad Cosmetics Verona palette. Yeah, everything else I purchased on my own. So just letting you know that, because transparency is what we believe in on this channel. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching me and hanging out with me today. If you like this video, like I said, don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Join the fam. We have so much content coming out. I've been filming all day. So you're going to see this look a couple of times. Just mind your business. As always, I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you in my next one. Bye.